Here's an engaging expansion of Part 1 in around 790 words, written in simple, natural language. The vast emptiness of space stretched before the Selection monitoring station, its crystalline windows offering a panoramic view of the star-studded darkness. Inside, the atmosphere was tense with anticipation as dozens of monitors displayed streaming data in pulsing alien script. Senior observer K'tal had spent 30 cycles at this post, watching the same sector of space with unwavering dedication. His people were known throughout the galaxy for their patience and attention to detail. With 4 independently moving eyes, each capable of processing different data streams simultaneously, they were natural choices for monitoring duties. This shift had started like any other routine sensor sweeps, documentation of minor stellar phenomena, and the occasional merchant vessel passing through their sector. K'tal's lower eyes focused on the standard sensor readouts, while his upper pair reviewed reports from the previous shift. Then something changed. It started as a tiny anomaly, a blip so subtle that most species monitoring systems would have missed it entirely. But that Selection quantum sensors were different. They could detect the slightest ripple in spacetime, the faintest whisper of energy against the cosmic background radiation. Energy signature detected in Grid 7, announced one of the junior observers, their voice carrying a hint of confusion. It's unlike anything in our database. K'tal moved swiftly to the main console, his long fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The reading made no sense at first. The energy output was massive, far beyond anything a standard vessel should produce, yet it was somehow contained, controlled with a precision that should have been impossible. The monitoring station's atmosphere changed as more observers gathered around their stations. The usual peaceful quiet was replaced by rapid conversations and the soft chiming of emergency protocols being initiated. K'tal felt his skin shift colors, a sign of intense concentration among his people, as he directed the station's full sensor array toward the anomaly. Multiple signatures now, called out another observer. They're forming a pattern. On the main view screen, space itself seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from hot sand. The effect spread across an area larger than anything K'tal had ever witnessed in his career. Energy readings continued to climb, defying every known law of physics that Dialections had documented. The station's artificial gravity fluctuated slightly as their systems struggled to compensate for the massive gravitational disturbance now building in their sector. K'tal ordered an immediate broadcast at Selection High Command, knowing that what they were witnessing would change everything. All observers, maintain your posts, K'tal commanded, his voice steady despite the growing excitement. Record everything. We are witnessing something unprecedented. The energy readings suddenly spiked, causing several backup systems to activate automatically. The view screen adjusted its filters as a brilliant point of light appeared in the darkness. It was as if a new star had been born, but this was no natural phenomenon. Through the station's windows, observers could see the fabric of space itself being pushed aside, folded in ways that should have been impossible. The station's quantum computers worked overtime, processing data faster than they ever had before, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. K'tal's years of training kicked in as he coordinated the observation teams, ensuring that every instrument, every sensor, every available detection method was focused on this event. Whatever was emerging from that distortion in space, it would be documented in unprecedented detail. Energy signature stabilizing, reported a senior technician, their voice barely containing their amazement. Something's coming through. The light began to take shape, resolving itself into distinct patterns. Metal gleamed in the starlight, surfaces so vast they seemed to go on forever. The station's gravity compensators worked harder as the mass readings exceeded their programmed limits. No one in the observation room spoke. They didn't need to. Every eye, every sensor, every instrument was fixed on the impossible thing that was materializing before them. Even K'tal, with all his years of experience, felt his professional detachment slipping as he witnessed what could only be described as a turning point in galactic history. The humans, whom they had watched for so long, whom they had dismissed as barely worth noting, were about to show them just how wrong they had been. And as the first details of the massive vessel began to become clear, K'tal realized that everything they thought they knew about humanity was about to change forever. For hundreds of years, that Dialections had watched Earth from afar, making notes in their vast databases about human development. They'd observed the first clumsy steps into space, documented the primitive rocket technology, and even chuckled at the basic iron engines humans used for their early Mars colonies. Like many advanced species, they'd written humanity off as youngsters who'd need another century or two before being worth serious attention. That comfortable assumption shattered like glass when the stellar Vanguard pushed through the quantum barrier. The ship emerged completely, and the observation station fell silent. Even the usual background hum of equipment seemed muted in the face of what they were seeing. Through the station's enhanced viewing windows, the human battleship looked like a city in space. Its hull gleamed with a metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors as they watched, adapting to the surrounding space like a chameleon. 3 kilometers, whispered one of the youngest observers, breaking the silence. It's 3 kilometers long. The words hung in the air as everyone tried to process the scale. Most species' largest vessels barely reached 1 kilometer. This human ship dwarfed everything in known space. Cuttle zoomed the main view screen in on different sections of the vessel, revealing details that made his heart race. What they'd all assumed were standard weapon ports were actually housing for technology so advanced that their sensors couldn't properly classify them. The hull itself seemed to be alive, shifting and adjusting in microscopic ways to optimize its position in space. News of the vessel spread through the station like wildfire. Senior analysts who'd spent decades dismissing human technology reports now crowded around screens, their faces showing mixtures of disbelief and awe. The ship's design broke every rule of conventional space engineering, yet it worked with an elegance that bordered on art. More stunning was the realization that humans had kept this hidden. While the galaxy watched their apparent struggles with basic space travel, they'd been building something revolutionary. Every primitive launch, every simple space mission had been a carefully crafted performance, hiding their true capabilities. The stellar Vanguard moved with impossible grace for its size. Its engines, visible now as supple pulses of blue-white energy, barely registered on traditional power scales. Yet the ship's movement through space showed power that their best minds couldn't even calculate. It was like watching a whale dance like a dolphin. "Look at the crew sections," called out a senior analyst, pointing to lit areas along the ship's spine. Through enhanced imaging, they could see humans going about their duties inside. They moved with the confidence of a species that knew exactly what they were capable of. There was no hesitation, no sign that they were handling technology beyond their understanding. The observation team watched as smaller vessels emerged from bays along the ship's sides. These weren't the clumsy shuttles humans were known for, but sleek craft that moved like quicksilver through space. They took up escort positions around the massive vessel, their formations speaking of long practice and absolute precision. Cuttle found himself repeatedly checking the station's chronological records. Everything they knew said humans shouldn't have this technology for at least another century. Yet here it was, not just working but working perfectly. The level of advancement suggested decades of development and testing, all carried out under the galaxy's collective nose. The most remarkable thing was the ship's presence. It didn't bristle with obvious weapons like most species' war vessels. Instead, it projected a quiet strength, like a mountain that doesn't need to prove its immovability. The design spoke of a species that had moved beyond the need to intimidate, achieving a level of confidence that came only from absolute capability. As the initial shock began to wear off, the implications started sinking in. Every diplomatic report, every trade agreement, every military assessment involving humans would need to be completely revised. Species that had dismissed Earth as a minor player would now be scrambling to establish better relations. The stellar Vanguard had done more than reveal humanity's true technological level. It had completely rewritten their place in the galactic community. And as Cuttle watched the magnificent vessel adjust its position with supple bursts of quantum energy, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises humans had kept hidden all these years. The observation station's analysis team worked around the clock, their sophisticated equipment pushed to its limits as they studied every inch of the stellar Vanguard. Each new discovery left them more amazed than the last. The ship wasn't just advanced, it represented a completely new approach to space technology. The vessel's gravitational wave engines were unlike anything ever seen before. Instead of fighting against space-time, They worked with it, creating gentle ripples that carried the massive ship forward with barely any energy expenditure. It was like watching someone surf a wave, rather than paddle against it. The efficiency readings were off the charts, suggesting the ship could cross the galaxy using less power than most vessels needed for a simple planetary orbit. "Look at how the hull responds to solar radiation," one analyst pointed out, highlighting a section of the massive ship on the main screen. The crystalline armor didn't just deflect energy. It absorbed it, processed it, and used it to strengthen itself. Under maximum magnification, the surface looked like countless tiny diamonds, each one adjusting its structure to handle whatever the cosmos threw at it. But it was the weapon systems that really caught everyone's attention. The Scilaction sensors detected technology that could literally bend reality. There were no crude laser cannons or plasma projectors. Instead, the ship carried devices that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. One test firing, aimed at empty space, created a temporary pocket of altered physics, a bubble where the normal rules simply stopped applying. The defensive systems were equally impressive. Traditional shields relied on energy barriers to deflect attacks. The Stellar Vanguard's defenses worked differently. They could predict incoming fire and adjust local spacetime to ensure weapons never reached their target. It was like trying to hit a boxer who knew your moves before you made them. Cantor's team discovered that the ship's outer layer contained millions of quantum sensors, each one capable of processing more data than entire planetary defense networks. They worked together like neurons in a brain, giving the vessel an awareness of its surroundings that bordered on prescience. The ship didn't just react to its environment, it anticipated and adapted to changes before they happened. The propulsion system defied conventional physics. Instead of pushing against space to move forward, it created a kind of sliding effect, as if the ship was rolling down a hill that it created in front of itself. The energy efficiency was incredible. The massive vessel used less power to move than most species' small shuttlecraft. "These power readings can't be right," muttered one of the senior technicians, running the same scan for the third time. But they were right. The ship's energy core didn't just generate power, it created it from the quantum fabric of space itself. It was like having an endless well of energy that actually got deeper the more you drew from it. The communication systems were generations ahead of anything known to exist. Rather than using standard subspace signals, the ship seemed capable of instantaneous communication across any distance through quantum entanglement. Messages couldn't be intercepted because they never actually traveled through space, they simply existed at both points simultaneously. Even more fascinating was how all these systems worked together. The ship wasn't just a collection of advanced technologies, it was a single unified organism of metal and energy. Each system complemented the others in ways that showed decades of refinement and testing. This wasn't just advanced technology, it was technology that had been perfected. The analysis team worked in shifts, but no one wanted to leave. Every hour brought new discoveries, new examples of how humans had quietly revolutionized space travel while the galaxy wasn't looking. The complexity was staggering, yet everything worked with elegant simplicity. As data poured in from their scans, the team began to realize they weren't just looking at a warship, they were seeing the future of space travel itself. The Stellar Vanguard represented a completely new understanding of how to work with the universe rather than against it. The most humbling part was knowing that this ship, as advanced as it was, probably wasn't even humanity's best work. If they'd managed to hide this level of technology, what else were they keeping under wraps? The thought sent shivers through the analysis team. They'd been studying what humans wanted them to see. Now they were finally getting a glimpse of what humanity could really do. The Galactic Council's Grand Chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 200 species crammed into the massive circular room, their voices creating a storm of worried whispers. Emergency sessions were rare. This was only the third in the Council's 1,000-year history. On the massive central screen, images of the Stellar Vanguard played on a loop. The ship's graceful movements, its impossible technology, and its sheer size dominated everyone's attention. Species that had been bitter rivals for centuries now sat shoulder to shoulder, united in their shared amazement and concern. The council leader, a tall being from one of the oldest spacefaring races, called for order. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to the Earth representative's empty seat. That emptiness spoke volumes. Humanity hadn't even bothered to attend this emergency session about their own ship. It was either supreme confidence or a calculated message about their new position in galactic politics. The balance of power has shifted, the council leader announced, stating what everyone was thinking. In the space of one day, every military assessment, every trade agreement, every diplomatic relationship involving Earth must be reconsidered. The chamber erupted again. Species that had dismissed Earth as a minor power were now desperately signaling their ambassadors to establish better relations. Trade representatives who had offered humans generous deals for basic technology were suddenly scrambling to renegotiate before Earth revealed more of its true capabilities. A representative from a powerful mining consortium stood up, their voice shaking slightly. Just last week, we were selling them basic shield technology. They acted so grateful, so impressed. Now we find out they've mastered quantum manipulation. They've been playing us for fools. The truth of those words hit hard. Everyone in the chamber had stories about humans appearing amazed by basic technology, eagerly trading for things they supposedly couldn't make themselves. Now it was clear, humans had put on a masterful performance, maintaining an appearance of technological inferiority while developing something far beyond anyone's imagination. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human diplomatic missions were suddenly receiving urgent meeting requests. Trade delegations found themselves upgraded to luxury accommodations. Military vessels that had previously bullied human ships were now giving them a wide berth, treating them with almost exaggerated respect. The economic impact was immediate. Companies that had invested in Earth's developing technology sector saw their stock values skyrocket. Worlds that had established early partnerships with human colonies were suddenly seen as privileged allies. Even Earth's art and entertainment, previously seen as primitive, was being reevaluated as potentially full of hidden meanings and advanced concepts. We need to understand how they did this, another representative demanded. How did they hide such advanced technology? Our best surveillance never detected anything unusual in their development. The answer came from an unexpected source, a junior analyst who had studied human entertainment. They showed us exactly what we expected to see, they explained. We thought they were primitive, so we saw primitive technology. They never lied. We just never asked the right questions. The implications were staggering. Every apparent struggle, every seeming setback in human space development had been carefully crafted. Their clumsy rockets, their basic space stations, their modest colonies, all had been part of an elaborate performance designed to keep their true capabilities hidden. As the session continued, the mood shifted from shock to a kind of grudging admiration. Humanity had pulled off something unprecedented. They had developed in plain sight, while keeping their true capabilities secret. No other species had managed anything close to this level of deception. The council leader called for calm as plans were made. New diplomatic protocols would need to be established. Military strategies would need complete revision. Trade agreements would need renegotiation. The entire structure of galactic politics would need to adjust to this new reality. But underlying all the practical concerns was a deeper question. What else were humans hiding? If they could conceal this level of technological advancement, what other surprises did they have waiting? The stellar Vanguard might just be the tip of a very large iceberg. As the emergency session drew to a close, one thing was clear: humanity had changed the game entirely. They hadn't needed threats or shows of force. They had simply revealed a fraction of their true capabilities, and in doing so, had reshaped the entire galactic power structure. As the dust settled from the initial shock of the stellar Vanguard's reveal, deeper truths began to emerge. The galaxy's best intelligence agencies, working together for the first time in history, started piecing together the real story of human technological development. What they found was both brilliant and humbling. Every major breakthrough in human space technology had been carefully staged. The cumbersome rockets, the clumsy space stations, the basic ion engines, all were elaborate props in a galaxy-spanning performance. Behind these visible struggles, humanity had been developing something far more advanced in secret underground facilities, hidden lunar bases, and classified research stations scattered throughout their solar system. The intelligence reports painted a picture of incredible patience and planning. While the world watched humans supposedly struggling with basic spaceflight, teams of brilliant scientists were perfecting quantum manipulation in secret facilities beneath the Earth's oceans. As other species observed their apparent difficulties with simple shield technology, human engineers were developing their revolutionary crystalline armor in chambers carved deep within Mercury's core. Most impressive was how they had hidden the testing of their advanced technology. The mysterious lights that occasionally appeared in Earth's skies weren't foreign visitors, they were test flights of prototype vessels. The unexplained energy readings that sometimes puzzled alien observers were actually controlled tests of their quantum engines. Every UFO sighting had been humanity testing their own advanced technology while maintaining plausible deniability. The development of the stellar Vanguard itself had been a masterpiece of misdirection. The massive ship hadn't been built in space, as everyone assumed such a vessel must be. Instead, it had been constructed in pieces inside massive underground chambers, each component disguised as something mundane. When satellites passed overhead, they saw only mining operations or agricultural complexes. The truth lay hidden beneath carefully maintained illusions. Even more fascinating was how humans had used their own nature to enhance the deception. Their tendency to argue and compete among themselves, which many species saw as a weakness, had actually helped hide their true capabilities. While different nations publicly competed over simple space achievements, they were secretly cooperating on the most advanced projects. The apparent rivalry between space agencies had been a clever smokescreen for unprecedented global cooperation. The scientific community had played its part perfectly. Every public paper, every announced discovery, was carefully crafted to show steady but unremarkable progress. Meanwhile, the real breakthroughs were documented in encrypted databases, shared only among a select group of scientists who had mastered the art of keeping the biggest secret in human history. Their method of hiding advanced AI development was particularly clever. While the public saw basic machine learning algorithms and simple automated systems, quantum computers deep underground were running simulations far beyond anything other species thought possible. The humans had understood early on that true artificial intelligence would be impossible to hide once revealed, so they kept it completely secret, using it only for their most classified projects. The intelligence agencies found that humans had even used their entertainment media as part of the deception. Science fiction movies and books served a dual purpose. They allowed humans to openly discuss advanced concepts while making them seem like pure fantasy to outside observers. Ideas that would later become reality were first introduced as entertainment, hiding technological breakthroughs in plain sight. Perhaps most impressive was how they had managed their own people. The vast majority of humans genuinely believed their species was still developing basic space technology. Only a small, carefully selected group knew the truth. This wasn't just a government secret, it was a secret kept by the best minds of an entire species, maintained for decades without a single significant leak. The funding for all this had been equally well hidden. Money flowed through thousands of seemingly unrelated projects, each one legitimate on its own, but all contributing small pieces to the larger puzzle. The paper trail was so complex that even after knowing what to look for, investigators could barely follow it. As more details emerged, respect for human ingenuity grew throughout the galaxy. They hadn't just developed advanced technology, they had done it while convincing everyone they were struggling with basics. It was like watching someone win an Olympic race after pretending to barely know how to walk. The revelation changed how every species viewed human behavior. Their apparent mistakes, their seeming limitations, their supposed weaknesses, everything had to be reevaluated. No one could be sure anymore what was real and what was another carefully crafted illusion. The day of the weapons test dawned quietly across the galaxy. The stellar Vanguard had positioned itself near an uninhabited asteroid field, far from any populated systems. Word had spread quickly, and observation vessels from dozens of species gathered at a safe distance, their sensors primed to record everything. On the Thylaxian observation station, Kintel and his team had the best view. Their advanced sensors were perfectly calibrated to capture every detail of what was about to happen. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. No one knew exactly what to expect, but everyone knew they were about to witness something unprecedented. The asteroid field stretched out before them, a dense cluster of rocks ranging from the size of small buildings to massive chunks bigger than space stations. It was the perfect testing ground, offering targets of various sizes and compositions. The humans had chosen their location carefully. Test commencing in 5 minutes, came the broadcast from the stellar Vanguard. The message was sent in all major galactic languages, its tone casual, as if they were about to demonstrate something as simple as a new food processor rather than weapons that could reshape the understanding of space warfare. The massive ship moved with impossible grace for its size, taking up position at the edge of the asteroid field. Its crystalline hull seemed to shimmer slightly, adjusting to the local space conditions. The smaller escort vessels moved away, giving their flagship room to operate. The first demonstration began without warning or fanfare. A soft blue light emerged from one of the ship's forward sections, so subtle that some observers almost missed it. Then, in an instant, 3 of the largest asteroids simply vanished. There was no explosion, no debris, no trace they had ever existed. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, leaving only empty space behind. Before anyone could process what they'd just seen, the second demonstration began. This time, a group of medium-sized asteroids began to break apart, not through explosion or force, but by simply coming undone at the molecular level. They dissolved like sugar in water, their components scattered harmlessly into space. The third demonstration targeted a dense cluster of smaller rocks. A barely visible beam of quantum energy reached out, and the asteroids started moving in perfect formation, as if they'd suddenly become part of a choreographed dance. The stellar Vanguard was controlling their very motion through space, manipulating gravity itself with precise control. For the final demonstration, the ship did something that made every scientific instrument in range start screaming warnings. It created what appeared to be a small, controlled quantum singularity. A tiny black hole that swallowed a section of the asteroid field before being safely collapsed back into nothingness. The silence that followed was deafening. On every observation vessel, crews stood in stunned silence. They had just witnessed weapons that didn't just destroy targets. They controlled the fundamental forces of the universe itself. The implications were staggering. What made it more impressive was the precision. There had been no collateral damage, no uncontrolled reactions, no scattered debris. Each demonstration had been perfectly contained, affecting only the intended targets. This wasn't just raw power. It was power wielded with surgical precision. The stellar Vanguard's commander broke the silence with another casual broadcast. Standard weapons test completed. Thank you for your attention. As if they hadn't just revolutionized the entire concept of space combat in less than 10 minutes. Analysis teams across the galaxy worked frantically to process what they'd seen. The energy readings defied their best models. The level of control over quantum forces surpassed anything previously thought possible. Even the most advanced species had to admit they had nothing that came close to this technology. But what struck most observers wasn't just the power of the weapons, it was their nature. These weren't weapons of mass destruction. They were precision instruments designed to neutralize threats with minimal collateral damage. The humans hadn't just created the most powerful weapons in known space, they'd created the most controlled ones. As the observation vessels began transmitting their recordings back to their homeworlds, one thing became clear. The galaxy had just witnessed the birth of a new era in space technology. The stellar Vanguard hadn't just demonstrated weapons, it had shown the galaxy what was possible when technology advanced beyond the need for crude force. As the dust settled from the weapons demonstration, Kuntal spent hours reviewing historical data about human development. Like pieces of a puzzle falling into place, he began to see patterns that everyone had missed. The humans hadn't just built advanced technology, they had learned from every mistake other species had made throughout history. The Scilection archives told stories of countless civilizations that had rushed to show off their technological prowess, only to trigger devastating wars. Species that developed powerful weapons immediately used them to threaten others, leading to arms races and eventual conflict. But humans had done something different. They had developed in secret, revealing their power only when it was too complete to challenge. Looking through Earth's public records, Kurtal found something fascinating. Humans had extensively studied their own wars, particularly something they called world wars. These conflicts had taught them crucial lessons about power, technology, and the importance of deterrence. They had learned that the best way to prevent war was to be so overwhelmingly capable that no one would dare start one. The stellar Vanguard itself reflected this philosophy. Its weapons weren't designed to destroy, they were designed to control. The ability to dissolve asteroids at the molecular level wasn't meant to threaten. It was meant to show that resistance would be pointless. The ship wasn't a weapon of war, it was a tool of peace, built by a species that had learned the true cost of conflict. Even more interesting was how humans had studied other species' first contact situations. They had watched as younger civilizations rushed to join the galactic community, only to become dependent on more advanced species technology. They had observed as proud empires fell because they revealed their capabilities too soon, making themselves targets. The human approach had been brilliantly different. They had maintained an appearance of technological inferiority while studying everything they could about the galaxy. Every trade deal, every diplomatic meeting, every seemingly innocent cultural exchange had been a chance to gather information. They hadn't just built advanced technology, they had built it specifically to counter every known weapon and defense system in the galaxy. Cotol's analysis showed that humans had been particularly clever in how they handled their apparent weaknesses. When other species saw their bickering politics and competing nations as signs of division, humans were actually using these differences to hide their unity on the most important projects. What looked like chaos from the outside was actually a carefully managed system of checks and balances. The deeper Cotol dug, the more he realized that humans had turned their perceived weaknesses into strengths. Their shorter lifespans meant they adapted faster than longer-lived species. Their emotional nature, often seen as a limitation, drove them to find creative solutions to problems that logical species might never consider. Even their physical limitations had pushed them to develop technology that worked smarter, not harder. Most impressive was how they had used their understanding of psychology. Humans knew that other species would see what they expected to see. By playing into these expectations, acting amazed at basic technology, struggling with simple problems, celebrating minor achievements, they had created a perfect cover for their real developments. The stellar Vanguard was the product of all these lessons. Its very existence sent a clear message. Humans had achieved what they had because they understood not just technology, but people. They knew that true power wasn't about destruction, it was about understanding, control, and the wisdom to know when not to use your capabilities. As Cotol compiled his final report, he realized that humans hadn't just built a better ship, they had learned to be better caretakers of power. They had developed their technology in secret not out of fear or aggression, but out of a deep understanding of how advanced technology could destabilize the galaxy if revealed too soon or in the wrong way. The stellar Vanguard wasn't just a demonstration of human technological achievement, it was a testament to human wisdom. They had waited to reveal their true capabilities until they were advanced enough to handle the responsibilities that came with such power. They hadn't just learned how to build amazing technology, they had learned when and how to use it responsibly. This understanding changed everything. The galaxy wasn't just dealing with a newly advanced species, they were dealing with one that had learned from everyone else's mistakes and had developed specifically to avoid repeating them. That made humans not just powerful, but uniquely qualified to handle that power responsibly. The stellar Vanguard's first official broadcast to the galaxy came without warning. The ship had positioned itself at a point where its signal would reach every major civilization simultaneously. The timing was perfect, just as speculation and fear were reaching their peak. The ship's external lighting shifted, creating a subtle glow that drew all eyes to its massive form. The broadcast began with a simple display of Earth's symbol, a blue and green planet wrapped in the DNA double helix, humanity's signature in the stars. What followed was a message that would be remembered for generations. To all species of the galaxy, we extend greetings. The broadcast began in every known language, the translations perfect in tone and meaning. We are humanity, and we believe it's time for proper introductions. The message continued with a calm confidence that caught everyone off guard. There were no threats, no demands, no show of superiority. Instead, the humans acknowledged the surprise and concern their revelation had caused and proceeded to explain their position with disarming honesty. They spoke of their journey, how they had watched and learned from other species' experiences. They explained their decision to hide their true capabilities, not out of fear or distrust, but from a deep understanding of how technological revelations could destabilize galactic peace. We didn't develop the stellar Vanguard to threaten, the message continued. We built it to protect, not just ourselves, but any species that seeks peaceful coexistence. Our technology isn't a sword, it's a shield designed to make conflict so futile that peace becomes the only logical choice. As the broadcast continued, holographic displays activated around the ship, showing images of Earth's history. They didn't hide their mistakes or wars. Instead, they showed how they had learned from them. They demonstrated how each conflict had taught them the importance of preventing the next one. The message addressed the deception directly. We understand our secrecy may have bred distrust, but consider, would you have preferred we revealed our capabilities before we truly understood their implications? Before we had learned to handle them responsibly? We chose to wait until we were ready not just to wield this power, but to be worthy of it. The broadcast showed images of the ship's interior, not the weapons or engines, but the research labs, medical facilities, and cultural exchange centers. The Stellar Vanguard wasn't just a warship, it was a mobile embassy, a scientific research station, and a humanitarian aid platform all in one. Our offer is simple, the message continued. We seek cooperation, not dominion. The Stellar Vanguard exists to ensure that all species can develop without fear of interference or aggression. We offer protection to those who need it, knowledge to those who seek it, and friendship to all who wish to join us in building a better galaxy. The humans explained their vision for the future, a galaxy where technological advancement didn't have to mean constant conflict. They spoke of sharing certain technologies, not all at once, but gradually, as species demonstrated their readiness to use them responsibly. We understand power, the broadcast continued. We understand it because we've seen its misuse, both in our history and in the histories of others. The Stellar Vanguard isn't about showing what we can do to others, it's about showing what we can do for others. The message concluded with an unexpected gesture. The ship's defensive systems temporarily powered down, making its internal operations completely visible to all scanning equipment. It was a demonstration of trust, showing that even with their advanced technology, humans were willing to make themselves vulnerable to prove their peaceful intentions. We are humanity, the final words rang out. We come not to rule, but to serve. Not to destroy, but to protect. Not to divide, but to unite. The power we wield isn't meant to elevate us above others, but to lift all of us toward a better future. The broadcast ended as simply as it had begun, leaving the galaxy in thoughtful silence. There had been no ultimatums, no demands, no threats. Instead, humanity had offered something far more powerful, hope for a future where technology served peace rather than threatened it. The message's impact was immediate and profound. It wasn't just what humans had said, it was how they had said it. They had managed to be both powerful and humble, advanced and approachable, confident and cooperative. In the months that followed the Stellar Vanguard's revelation, the galaxy changed in ways no one could have predicted. The massive ship began its regular patrol route, but its presence meant far more than simple surveillance. It became a symbol of a new era, one where advancement didn't have to mean aggression. The first major change came in how species interacted with each other. Traditional power players who had relied on military might to bully smaller civilizations suddenly found themselves under the watchful eye of human observers. The Stellar Vanguard didn't need to make threats, its mere existence was enough to make anyone think twice about starting conflicts. Piracy, once a constant problem in the outer systems, virtually disappeared overnight. The few pirates who tried to continue their operations discovered that their ships would simply stop working when the Vanguard was nearby. No weapons were fired, no threats were made, their technology simply wouldn't function. The humans had developed a way to neutralize threats without causing harm. Trade routes that had once required heavy military escorts became peaceful shipping lanes. Species that had been hesitant to explore or colonize due to security concerns found themselves able to expand safely. The humans had effectively created zones of peace wherever their ship traveled. But the most fascinating changes were cultural. Species that had prided themselves on their technological superiority began focusing more on artistic and cultural achievements. With humanity's protective presence ensuring peace, civilizations found themselves free to explore other aspects of development. The stellar Vanguard itself became a hub of scientific and cultural exchange. The humans opened parts of the ship for diplomatic meetings, cultural exhibitions, and scientific conferences. They didn't share all their technology, but they freely offered solutions to pressing problems like food shortages, disease outbreaks, and environmental disasters. Small changes revealed the depth of humanity's influence. When natural disasters struck colony worlds, the Vanguard would appear, using its advanced technology to provide aid. When diplomatic tensions rose between species, the ship's presence often led to peaceful resolutions. They never forced solutions, they simply provided a space where conflicts could be resolved without fear or pressure. The humans' approach to sharing technology was particularly clever. Rather than simply giving advanced systems to other species, they helped each civilization develop its own solutions based on their unique needs and cultural values. They understood that copy technology wouldn't be as valuable as technology that grew naturally from a species' own development. Education became a major focus. The Vanguard carried teams of human teachers who helped other species understand not just how to use technology, but when and why to use it. They shared their mistakes as readily as their successes, helping others learn from human history. The ship's medical facilities became legendary. Species with different biologies had always struggled to help each other, but human medical technology could adapt to any patient. They'd freely offered this care to anyone who needed it, asking only that the knowledge be shared with others. Perhaps the most significant change was in how species viewed themselves and their place in the galaxy. The humans had shown that advancement didn't have to come at the cost of others' well-being. Their example inspired other civilizations to look for ways to grow, while helping others do the same. The Galactic Council transformed from a body focused on power politics to one genuinely interested in solving shared problems. With humanity's stabilizing influence, species found they could work together without fear of being taken advantage of. The humans hadn't just changed the balance of power, they had changed how power itself was viewed. Young civilizations making their first steps into space found a very different galaxy than the one that had existed before. Instead of facing exploitation or isolation, they found guidance and protection. The humans had created a system where new species could develop at their own pace, freed from external pressures. As the years passed, the stellar Vanguard became more than just a ship, it became a promise. It promised that power could be used wisely, that advanced technology didn't have to mean conflict, and that species could grow stronger by helping each other rather than competing. The humans had done more than reveal advanced technology, they had shown the galaxy a better way forward. They had proved that true power wasn't about controlling others, but about helping them grow. In doing so, they hadn't just changed the galaxy, they had changed its future.